and welcome to episode 4 of The Feist, the podcast where we talk about your favorite sports with your feistiest friends. Sara Gross here with Kelly O'Mara. Kelly, what women's sports did you watch this week?
So much women's sports. I feel like the answer cannot be triathlon every week, though in truth, I watch a lot of triathlon, obviously.
I know you did.
But I did watch the boxing match. I assume you also watched the boxing match after we told everybody to watch the boxing match.
Okay, that was my homework, was to watch the boxing. Okay, this was my experience with the boxing. So I was like thinking, okay, I have to watch boxing because I promised Kelly I would for the podcast. So here we go. And so I didn't, it was live on Friday and I actually watched it Saturday night.
Me too, actually.
And I sat down to watch it. I sat down with the intention of kind of fast forwarding to the good parts, or like just watching the boxing and not all the in between stuff, you know, because they had, well, it was a full card for those who don't know, it was on Netflix, a full women's card, Madison Square Gardens. It was amazing. The first time it's been a women's only card for a boxing match, I think, at Madison Square Garden. Yeah.
Which is, they keep saying the home of boxing. Madison Square.
It's the home of a lot of things, I feel like.
I know, apparently.
Anyway, and so I sat down with the intention of just fast forwarding to kind of the best boxing bits, you know? Right. And I just became totally sucked in. And next thing you know, 2.5 hours later, we haven't even got to the main event yet, I'm crying.
Oh, really?
On the sofa watching women's boxing. So yeah, that was my entire Saturday night.
I feel like I don't know if boxing's supposed to make you cry.
Okay, I'll tell you. Okay, I'll have to tell you why I was crying. Because there was so many. Well, first of all, having Layla Ali as one of the hosts of the show, and then there was this thread, this narrative through all the women. They had a lot of ex-boxers who they were interviewing who were in the crowd. They had, obviously, Layla Ali was one of the hosts. We're telling this story, the same thing over and over, which we hear in women's sports, which is when they were younger, they were told they couldn't do it. Right? They were told by a parent or a friend or a coach that they should not pursue boxing, and they decided to double down and do it anyway. And they had to fight to box in front of crowds of just 200 people, and now having these hundreds of thousands of people watch, or millions of people watching on Netflix, and tens of thousands in the stand. It was so emotional for them. So I just got wrapped up in this. And I think the moment that got me was when Layla Ali said exactly that her dad said to her, no, you shouldn't pursue boxing, and that's not a good professional choice for women. And I'm like, it's one thing when your parents telling you and they're an accountant or something. That's another thing when your parents tell you that and it's Muhammad Ali.
Yeah, I also obviously he suffered a lot of damage later in life from boxing, so he might have been speaking from a personal experience there.
Sure. It's not purely
right
a woman's experience. He might have said that to his son as well, for sure. But when that person that you feel saying that you have to say to, no, this is what I want to pursue, is your dad and the best boxer ever known, is a tough one,
Sure. Yeah, I will say I fast forwarded it a lot to the main event. But one of the, so how one of my, I don't know if pet peeves is that word, but big things is I don't like the I hope that we get past the point in women's sports where we feel you have to watch it because you need to eat your broccoli, because you should, because it's good for you, it's good for the little girls. And watching the spectacle as Katie Taylor and Amanda Serrano came in, yes. Those drunk fans from Ireland were not there because it was good for equality, all right? They were there because these are two amazing boxers.
Yes.
And they wanted to see, well, in the Irish case, they wanted to see Katie win, right? Yeah. And so the people, that's what I really and they went full boxing spectacle, I don't know if people have seen boxing before, but playing music, crowds, lights, the announcer. It was
they had
a lot.
Professional dancers dancing in with them. They they had their own dance routines. Some of them so there were 4 different cards, and so the other matches were equally had walk-ins, but like Katie and Amanda had like the longest, most extended one. Like,
they were very extended.
It was like almost more than the boxing.
Oh, wait. Like, well, that's the thing. That as I was watching, because I mean, the boxing's only 20 minutes of boxing, so you got to make it, worth it. And then Katie Taylor was walking in the valley or whatever that song is. Like I walked the valley of darkness, but still, and they went full on like emotional. It was and she was walking slowly.
Yes.
I was like,
I freaking loved it. Honestly, like if I could go back, I want a sport with walk-ins. Like I feel like I could nail a walk-in.
Okay.
Like I could do
you
the
could
dancing.
tell
Yeah.
that they like didn't want to screw up their walk-in because this was a big deal. It was like the biggest women's fight ever. It was like a lot of immediate attention on them, and they were like trying to nail it.
Yeah. For sure.
I heard it did get 6 million viewers on Netflix.
Like live, 6 million live.
I mean, Netflix makes up its numbers.
Right.
Like, it's not like a Nielsen rating, so it's like who knows? It gets whatever Netflix says.
Ish.
Ish. I will say I did think the fight wasn't as exciting. If we're gonna get into the actual fighting, partially because I think Amanda Serrano, like. Okay, I'm going to use wrong terms because I don't know boxing, but I feel like she kind of like got pulled in before in the last 2 matches and then got beat. So she was trying to be like smarter and sit back a little and like dance around the edges, but that's just not as much fun. That's not exciting.
Yeah, that's true. And I did not see the previous matches, but you could tell that they were both being they were boxing smart instead of wild swings. Right? Which isn't as exciting as a fan, I guess. So I hear, based on the commentary.
So I hear.
But I still, I thought it was amazing. And also like just trying to like learning a sport, learning how to be a spectator of a new sport was actually also kind of fun. Like figuring out, like does that count as a hit?
Did you like look up? I was gonna say, did you like learn things about boxing?
Oh, well, only what I didn't Google during the event, but I wish I had, honestly.
Okay.
But like what counts as like a hit and stuff like that, like how the judges are counting things. And so, yeah, interesting. Yeah, I loved it.
I did watch that. I of course also watched a little bit of triathlon. But I also watched the end of the women's Giro. And I don't know, and like the end's not the right word because the end was actually on Sunday, but the big stage was Saturday. So I feel like if people don't know cycling, you're like, I wasn't that excited about the final stage. But the penultimate, the stage before the final stage was very exciting. Massive climb. And Elisa Longo Borghini, whose name I can remember, like she won last year, and she just like went for it, if that makes sense, on the second to last stage. She just like got 40 seconds up at one point, and just like, I'm going to put my head down even though I'm still 20K to the end.
Right.
And so she ended up winning by 18 seconds after 8 stages.
Wow.
Which is pretty crazy. Yeah.
Huh. Sounds exciting.
I will say, though, they do not make it easy to watch. It's one of those ones where you need, like, a subscription and, like...
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, who has the answer of how to make women's sports easier to watch all in one place?
Well, like broadcast TV is definitely the way to go. But... And even when there was this, like, controversy, semi-controversy, and I tried to find the video of what had gone down at the end of stage 5, and I couldn't find video anywhere, which I was like, that's really weird. That's like, because the men's tour, there was a similar controversy last week where, like, somebody yelled at somebody as they were sprinting, and the video was everywhere. It was being, like, clipped and played on Instagram all the time. So I was like, why can't I find video of this? And then I finally found, like, highlights of the finish, and you can like see it in the background, and I think they might just like not have as many cameras. Like that's like at first I was like this is bullshit, why can't I, and then I was like, I think they literally just like didn't have the shot.
100% they did not have the shot, because if some controversy went down, of course someone was going to put that out and it was going to go viral on social and whatever. So but what was the controversy?
Marlon Russe, who I'm probably saying that wrong, who ended up second but was in the lead. They were like sprinting to the finish, and she was on someone's wheel who then let a gap open up ahead of them, and she had to go around that person
Yeah.
Because she didn't want to lose seconds because it came down to 18 seconds.
Yeah.
And she started yelling at the girl, like, as she would,
Yeah.
like, what are you doing? Fucking close the gap or whatever.
Yeah.
And which to me feels like not worth a penalty, but she got fined for intimidation.
What? Is that a thing?
Like, apparently it's like a €200 fine or something like that.
Yeah, see, now I'm with you. I want to see
Now you want to see it.
to see like what constitutes intimidation, when like I feel like I've watched enough cycling to know that cyclists yell at each other if they if a gap opens.
That's what I'm saying.
up,
Like the exact same thing happened in the men's tour like a week ago, and you can see them coming across and like just screaming at each other and waving their arms, and yeah. And they didn't get fined. Yeah.
Like I've seen cyclists spit on each other. Do they? You know what?
Okay, maybe don't do that. Yeah.
Like not recommending it, but like I don't know if they got a penalty for intimidation.
Sure.
That's interesting. Okay.
Mm-hmm. So that was my
We'll
annoyance.
never know.
Is that like we'll never know because it happened at like 3 a.m. here, and it's on like flow bikes or whatever, and you need a subscription, and yeah, you're like, there you go. Terrible.
We still have a ways
All
to
right,
go.
but
Mm-hmm.
we do in terms of women's sports. But what are you gonna watch this upcoming weekend, Sarah?
Oh, the Euros.
Oh, you're gonna watch the Euros?
Well,
Excellent.
okay. Well, we have the semis on the 22nd, right? And then
Yeah, so I guess by the time people listen to this, quarterfinals will already be like halfway through, right? Yes. And then it'll be semis and then finals. Yeah. So who are you rooting for now since Wales is out?
since Wales. I don't know. I never thought about who I was rooting for. Do I have to choose someone?
Obviously, yes.
Oh, okay. Well, okay. I'm going to come back to you, Kelly. I'm going to come back to you.
All right. I mean, you kind of want England to win. They are the defending champs. They're pretty good. France hasn't managed to win a major title yet, so you kind of have to feel like a little bit bad for them. Like, you feel like they should have won the Olympics in Paris last year?
do like how as soon as the U.S. is not in a tournament, you're immediately to the underdogs. Like,
everybody. Obviously. To be totally fair, when I was watching the CONCACAF Gold Cup, which was the men a couple weeks ago, and Costa Rica almost beat the U.S., I was rooting for Costa Rica.
Oh, wow.
Because Costa Rica, think about that. If they could beat the U.S., like, they deserve that win.
Right.
That's like, what is it? It's like 2 million people, 4 million people? It's tiny. So.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay. I feel that. Okay.
We also have this ongoing debate, whether or not the city of LA could beat the U.S. national team.
Whether the city of LA.
Los Angeles.
Yes. Thank you.
I was like, to be clear.
But you mean... So it wasn't what city is LA that was confusing for me, to be clear. It was, do you mean like the women's soccer team from LA?
No, sorry.
Like the city, like as a
no,
whole,
like
the men. Like who do we mean?
Yeah. I was because this was CONCACAF Gold Cup is men, so we were thinking about the men's national team, and I think that if you took the best players out of the city of Los Angeles, they could probably win.
Okay, so we're talking the best women players or men players, male players.
Men's players, because the U.S. women's national team is good. The U.S. women's national team, this is not a debate.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm so glad that this came up because the only time I've really gotten myself into like a weird drunken fight, like, okay, was about almost exactly this. So like I'm a happy, in your 20s when you go out and drink a lot, whatever, and with your friends. And I was at a New Year's party and I started talking. I think it was still at dinner. So like it was like even before the party. And I started arguing with one of my, like my partner at the time, his friend, about whether the Edinburgh Pro soccer team, there's two, Hearts and Hibs. It doesn't matter which one. Because
good to know. Okay.
Hearts or Hibs, I was like, the U.S. women's soccer team could beat them.
Yeah, right? Probably.
And these are pretty good. They're decent pro teams. But like, I was like, yeah, the U.S. women's soccer team. And he was like, no way. And we like got into it. And I was so furious. I didn't even like, and I don't really quite, I like kind of blacked out. But I don't remember ever being so angry and drunk at the same time as like this exact debate.
Well, this is not exactly the same debate, to be totally fair, but yeah, basically the same. The
it's
reason
similar.
Friday evening, the reason I did not watch the boxing match live is I was at like a work event of my husband's, and he says that I drunkenly explained boxing to everybody there multiple times. So,
I like how these stories all just intersect. That's great.
Yeah. It was like excellent. I think I was explaining it, to some like healthcare lobbyist. It was great. It was like,
You were
wow.
explaining boxing broadly or like women's boxing?
Women's box, the match specifically between Katie Taylor and Amanda Serrano.
Okay, and what were the points where your husband's colleagues were not understanding?
I think they understood.
What did you feel you need to explain?
Again, that it was going to be amazing, that it was awesome. I think I just had to explain that quite a few times.
Okay. Oh, it's worthy. Yeah. That's worthy.
Yeah. All right, but this week, Euros for sure. And that is not hard to watch. It is on TV, heavily on TV. The other one that will be heavily on TV is WNBA All-Stars is this weekend.
Yes.
It is on, it's not just like on, the skills contest is on ESPN, but the actual All-Star game is legit on primetime ABC TV. Yeah. I'm a casual basketball fan. I'm similar to boxing level fan.
Right.
So I had not understood the All-Star game until like recently. And apparently it's a combo of fan voting, other players voting, and media like voting.
Yeah, I didn't know that until this year either. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is interesting. They vote, and are they voting for who gets to be on the teams?
Yeah, like who are the All-Stars? Like you basically vote for like who do you think is best. And the reason this became a whole thing is because the WNBA fan voting has always just been like, I don't think it was like regulated in any way in the past. Like if you had wanted to vote a bunch of times, you could have, because like it's not an issue.
Right.
And now all of a sudden they're getting like million fan votes, and they're overwhelmingly for like Caitlin Clark, and then for all of Caitlin Clark's teammates.
Interesting. Yeah.
Whether or not her teammates are the best at their position, because that's just like, so the fan base there is just like heavily tilting it, which one could say like, well, then they are the All-Stars because they have the biggest fan base, but it's also like a little weird, and you can see how big the discrepancy is when you look at the charts of how people were rated by the fans, and then how people were rated by their fellow players.
Right.
And then how they were rated by and it's like wild discrepancies, right? Like Caitlin Clark is rated like number 1 point guard, and then she's like by fans, and then she's like number 9 by the players, and number like 5 or 6 by the media. So it's like those are not.
That's wild. Yeah.
Yeah.
And and do you think that sometimes the player vote is trying to understands obviously all of this that's going on with the fans and are trying to balance that out in some way?
I don't know. I mean, I think there's probably for sure an argument to be made that I am guessing a lot of the WNBA players are tired of hearing about Caitlin Clark, right? Like,
yes.
Yeah, of course. Like I would, right? Like I don't even think they're mad. I don't think it's like a mean thing. I would just also be like, oh my God, shut up already, right?
Sure. I mean, even I'm
Sure.
a little bit like that story that you told last week where I forget you were at a game with someone who was like, oh, the other players, there are other good players out here other than Caitlin Clark. Like
they were like, oh, she's not just running circles around them. And you're like, no,
like
definitely not.
Yeah. The idea that people thought that is kind of, eye-opening for sure about kind of the, I don't know, the information that we need to get out there about like how freaking good those players are at basketball.
Yeah, so I'm sure in some ways, yes, the other players are like, that was an issue. Like, I'm sure that was a dynamic, but I think also there are players, right? Like, I think like Paige Beckers is highly regarded as a rookie by other players, right? I think there's like Ajay Wilson, right? I think is like widely respected by right? Like I think there are players that everybody like knows, or because you play against them, right? Like when you raced all the time, like you know who's gonna do their part in the pack and who's not. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah,
but yeah, you're right. Jeopardy had a question last week.
Oh,
and the question was, what player had a big start to this year after winning a national title with UConn and then being the number 1 WNBA draft pick? And the person guessed Caitlin Clark, which is obviously not true.
Yes.
And then no one had any other guess.
Oh.
I know.
Yeah,
I was
that
like,
hurts.
oh.
That's painful. So yeah, we do have a long way to go. In terms of, so okay, on that note, like what can we watch in the All-Star weekend?
All-Star?
Like there's obviously the All-Star game, right? But what are the
There's
other
the All-Star game. So there is a 3-point contest and a skills contest on Friday on ESPN, and I don't know how popular that is yet. I think it's like relatively recent, last few years. Because in the men's All-Star weekend, the 3-point contest and the dunk contest are big. So you can watch those on Friday, and then on Saturday is the All-Star game on ABC at like 8 or 8:30 Eastern. And Caitlin Clark's the captain of one team, Nafisa Collier is the captain of the other, and they like drafted their picks for their teams, which is kind of funny.
Yeah, I saw that. It was really fun.
Yeah, so we'll see how it goes. I know All-Star games are weird, right? Because you're like, eh.
Yeah, I'm all in on the 3-point contest and the skills contest too. I think that's what I'll be watching this week.
That's what you'll be watching.
In addition to
the Euros. They also obviously take a little mini break from WNBA of course. So the other thing happening this weekend that is also on ESPN, and this is partially like, part of me is like, ESPN must have 10 channels at this point because everything is on ESPN. The other thing that's on ESPN is the NFL Flag Championships, which is the flag football championships.
Which also must be growing wildly. Like,
oh my God.
Yeah. I feel like I'm hearing about flag football everywhere now.
I also gave this speech to some of my husband's colleagues about how obviously, since flag football is so popular, and he was like, Kelly, that's not obvious to everyone here.
Wow.
So, but it's going to be in the Olympics in 28.
Cool. Yep.
And it just got approved as an NCAA emerging sport for women, which is like a pathway to get a sport approved into the NCAA that's like faster. Yeah. And then it's also like blowing up at the youth level because it is like co-ed, right? Because like here, all the high schools have added teams for girls. There's like youth teams. I'm like mixed on it, Sarah. It's like on the one hand, it's cool. On the other hand, it's a little weird.
Yeah. So Kelly, I wasn't aware of I was barely loosely aware of the existence of flag football until I worked with with Compete Sports at LGBTQ sports organization. And that's when I really became aware of like how inclusive flag is in terms of like there are women's leagues, there are LGBTQ leagues, it makes it more easy and accessible for kids to get involved in football. So that's what I started. It's like the other shoe started to drop for me about like how we take kind of a very, very popular but rough-ish sport and turn it into something that kids can run around a field and grab flags out of each other's waistbands.
Sure. But that has always existed. Okay, counterpoint. You ready?
Yeah.
That is a deliberate effort by the NFL to rehab their image and win back middle-class and upper-middle-class families. Because, like, people were fleeing football. And even if you're going to, like, I live in a wealthy, white, suburban area. And, like, we don't really have youth football, right? It was, like, largely dying out. Even though it's still America, so we still have it. And that was a problem for the NFL. Even if, like, we are not football powerhouse the way Texas is or, like, Philadelphia is, or right? It was still a problem for them. And so they realized they need to do something because this was going to hurt them. And so they are literally backing, like, the NFL flag championships are sponsored by the NFL. Like, they are backing a number of these youth leagues. So they have made a very deliberate effort to, like, rebrand themselves, which is why I'm, like, mixed about it, because it's like, sure, that's great, but if the end result is still, like, there isn't, like, it's still pro tackle. Like, if the end result's like, oh, we've slowly tricked these parents into being okay with football, and now we're going back to us, then, like, and their kid gets really into it, and then eventually they're going to have to play tackle because that's the sport at college and pro level, right? Like, then we've, like, tricked them into coming back, see? And now they have, like, warm, fuzzy feelings, and they're like, oh, you're in too deep now.
Right. So, okay, I see what you're saying. So, basically, if the NFL is fully back again, even funding the rise of flag football, right? They, by definition, cannot let it get too big because tackle has to remain the main sport. right? So there's a built-in challenge to the growth of flag.
Yeah, and I think it like, I don't know, like I'm not a huge football fan, like traditional football, American football. And I think it did sort, like it was about to like kind of die out a little, right? Like people would say go the way of boxing, even though we just talked about how big boxing is, but like that used to be very on parallel, and instead now you're seeing like a resurgence. And so it's sort of like, I feel like I'm like, I don't want all these kids to end up with concussions.
Right. I see. So like that their next level of play is always going to be tackle. Yeah, I mean, I think I still have a bit of a burn it all down feeling about the NFL.
That's what I'm saying, is we're not burning it down.
Yeah.
I was like,
yeah. And so like, but what I mean by that is that like, it's because, especially in the US, like it's clear like football in some places is like such a massive religion, right? And it's like this multi-billion-dollar industry. And when you like, if you could take like just men's football and then like the rest of all sports, and they probably don't even balance out. So like the idea that, you know, I kind of feel like it's just too big a juggernaut. Like we need
it is
more like variety of sport, more different types of people playing sport. We need women's sport to grow. We need, you know, and like, does that include one way to do that is to burn down the existing sport
and rebuild from its ashes.
That's right. This is my different various feminist theories on sport, right? Like there's always the burn it down theory, right? And then there's there's other theoretical models where you're trying to build something up to at least the same size, right? It's just like really hard to imagine how we
it's the problem with like a lot of the problems people have with NCAA and like the direction it's now gone aren't really NCAA problems, they're football problems, right?
Yeah.
Because like college football got out of hand. And so like that's like a lot of these problems people have with different like, which is also one of the fascinating things about flag is like, again, it's getting super popular on here because it was targeted to this like demographic. It's very popular in these areas. And when people talk about it, one of the things they love is like how laid back it is and how inclusive and how it's not super structured yet. And they're not trying to chase college champion. And all the things they're describing are things they hate about the youth sports industrial complex.
Right.
Which then is like, the problem isn't football. Like, like your problem is that, right?
Yes.
Like that the youth sports is like a $40 billion business and flag is being propped up by the NFL to like not be part of that. But if there were college scholarships, like it will become that. So then it becomes like what is it that you actually like about this? Is it the sport, or is it just like that it doesn't have all these other parts to it?
Yeah. I'm totally, I feel that because I feel, and on a related but different note, like I feel the same way about, like I love the attention that the Dallas Cowboy cheerleaders are getting, right? Because of the Netflix special, and they're athletes unto themselves, and they've now got more pay, and like all of these things are great, but like you still have this model in which like the big strong boys are playing the sports and like the athletic women who are, in my opinion, equally talented and deserve to be on main stage and like so good at what they do, are cheering the sports, right? So it's still I don't know. There's still some like, it's like some problematic elements in and around football that I still like, that are just like challenging, that kind of just like challenge my my feminist sensibilities.
Noted. Okay. There are like we have a couple people who work for Feisty that live in like deep football country, and I like have plenty of friends that go, right? And so there's places where it is fundamentally part of what you do every week. It's part of the social structure. It's like church, right? Like, and that's not a thing where I live. It's not a thing where you live. Like, so it's sort of like, okay.
And in that way, like I kind of understand that too, right? So that's why I'm like, that's why I kind of posit like burn it all down. It's like one theory, right? But I'm not saying like that's the road we should take. Right? I'm just saying like I understand that sentiment on some level, but I don't know. I don't know how we turn the dial far enough so that these problems.
Maybe we'll talk about youth sports in a future episode, because I haven't been going down that hole recently, and I don't know if I would let my kid play tackle football. Probably not until high school. like because there's
because
just too
of
much
the
evidence.
injuries and concussions, stuff like that.
There's just way too much evidence, you know.
Yeah, and I'm glad that conversation's kind of coming to light too, right? Like the last few years, that's really been a big conversation. Mm-hmm.
So we'll see. But NFL Flag Championships this weekend on ESPN.
Okay.
You can check it out. You can go watch it. There is a lot of sports on TV these days. Like when you are skimming through the channels, you are like, which is our next topic, Sarah.
Yeah, I saw your list. I'm scared.
Our Sarah and Kelly go deep on how many new leagues there are. It's a lot.
Yeah. Yeah. So in preparation for the show, Kelly just wrote out this like list of all of the, there's all of the new women's leagues, right?
Yes.
So, I'm just going to name a few so that folks know what we're talking about. But we've got the 3x3 Unrivaled, which is the basketball, Northern Super League, which is our Canadian soccer, USL Super League. These are all soccer, right? US, I don't know, US and Division A, Women's Pro League.
Well, there's like multiple soccer leagues now, which is like a little, like USL is equal to NWSL, even though people haven't heard of it. And then there's like 2 more Division 2 levels. And then Northern Super League's kind of equal to NWSL, I believe. So there's like multiple soccer level leagues. You said Unrivaled 3x3, but then there's also the Athletes Unlimited Winter Off-Season Basketball League that started last year.
Yeah.
Then you have Athletes Unlimited has a new softball league that just launched.
Okay.
Pro softball league. There was an announcement this week about tryouts for a new pro baseball league for women. Which I'm not totally sure how that's gonna work. There is 3 current pro volleyball leagues. And then there's another one launching next year. Again, Athletes Unlimited, which I feel like it's just like a bunch, like a lot of things, and then pro volleyball, and then what's the third one? League One, Love. So there's 3.
Yeah.
There's the Women's Elite Rugby League. Did you know there are 2 tackle women's football leagues?
2.
Yeah.
Okay.
In North America.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's a lot. Oh, and PWHL. I was like, that's the other big one we forgot last year.
Right.
And then there's also lacrosse. Lacrosse also just signed a big deal with ESPN.
Right. And what do we mean by, like, am I asking are you laughing at my question? Like,
I'm laughing because it's just like so much. It's like, oh.
Yeah. Like, and it's amazing. But like, what do we mean by a pro league? Like, what makes a league pro?
I think that's a good question. I think, well, okay, let's start by, I went to one of the final games of the Women's Elite Rugby League and talked to 2 of the players there about what this new league meant to them and like what the difference is between that and where they used to play. So let's hear from them.
Hi, my name is Sophie Lamphere, and I've been playing for 7 years now, 2018. We played a lot in a tournament called the WPL, which was the Women's Premier League, and that was all personally funded. So players were paying for all their flights, and they were paying for their food and their hotels. And so now having this opportunity as a professional league, it gives opportunities to players that may not have that financial support that they had or didn't have in the WPL. And so now rugby is reaching more people and making it more accessible. I'm currently a student, but I also work in product strategy at Salesforce, so we all have our side gig. So we would love for rugby to be the main priority, and it is in the evenings or in the mornings whenever we train, but a lot of us have our own grind or work that happens outside of rugby in order to support our career.
Hi, my name is Jade McGrath. I've been playing rugby for just over 10 years now. I started my freshman year of college. It's big picture, symbolically, it is the culmination of decades and decades of trailblazers paving the way for this to even be a thing that we get to say exists. Every day I get to train like 3 to 4 days a week with my friends. I don't pay for travel and accommodations when I travel. Our meals are covered. We have stadiums full of people and media coverage, and people are learning about who we are. And so going from club rugby and pay-to-play model to this situation, my bank account's happy, but my heart's also happy. I have a full-time job, just like most of my teammates. We all work full-time jobs. I work for the American Cancer Society during the day, and then mornings and evenings I work out and I train, and weekends we travel and play. It has been so amazing just nationally to see some of the attention and support that we're getting. I've had friends from out of the country and all over the country saying, hey, are you playing in this? Like, I know you're still playing rugby. Are you playing in this league? I heard about this league. Or I live in New York and there's a team. Are you coming to play them? And so people are hearing about us and finding out about us, which is really, really cool. Rugby is awesome. It's fun. A bunch of badass women here. Can I say badass? I don't know. A bunch of badass women here. And it's a great time. The rugby community is the reason that I joined and stayed for rugby. And that extends not just on the pitch, but off the pitch. It's kind of a party in the stands, right? You come for the day, you enjoy yourself, and then you get to hang out with your friends and family after. It's great.
So you can hear that they both still have other jobs, like not just like side jobs, like full-time
jobs.
Full-time job.
Yeah.
Yes. So by most definitions, that would not be a professional league because you are not making a living at it.
Right. Yeah. Like, do the players need to be making a living for it to be a professional league? Do they need to be, or does it need to be bringing in just like some money? Like, it's professional. It's because by the old rules of amateurism, like in the Olympic movement, right? You could make zero money. Like, before they changed the rules, you couldn't go to the Olympics if you took any money from any sponsor, anything to do your sport.
Sure.
And then as soon as you took like $10 from someone to do whatever, then you were a pro, right? Like, is that feels like traditionally how we've divided things up in sports. But yeah, I see where it's like you can't just be making $100 and then
right. And now it's like you can win like 1,000. I mean, I'm making this up, but they're run a 10K and win $500 randomly at your
right.
And then you're not a pro.
By that definition, I'm a pro at a lot of things. If it's just like you went and won like your local trivia competition,
right?
And you got like a free jug of beer. Are you a pro?
And I feel, and it is getting messy because people are so excited to support women's sports, and there are so many leagues, and a lot of these are a big development. Yeah. Like, you hear those rugby players talk, like they used to have to pay for their own travel and their own expenses, so it is a big step up.
Yeah,
but it's also like my mom was like, "Oh, we have a new pro soccer league in Wisconsin," and I was like, "No, you don't." Like, I'm like, I don't, like, you don't, like, you have like, and I mean this like as somebody who was deeply semi-professional as an athlete and never made a living.
Right.
I'm not hating, right? Like, I don't like, I know lots of people who are very, very good at their various professions that never made enough money in their profession to do it full time.
Yeah.
That's just like capitalism and economics.
Yeah.
But is that how how are we defining these different leagues? And then even the ones that are pretty big, PWHL, WNBA, NWSL, I mean, they're not making like huge amounts of money. Right? Yeah. Like, this is the thing about like the WNBA is they're in negotiations right now for their new contract because they should be making more money.
Yeah. Well, and I think, sorry, I want to talk about that WNBA stuff in a minute, but and now I just like literally forgot what I was going to say. I do think like we have to recognize that where we are on the trajectory of women's sports, like, and I say this from the point of view of like not forgetting that we still have a long way to go, right? Like, when things, because this is how it goes historically with change making and movements, is that like you get to a certain amount and people go, oh, you have a whole generation that's like, this is way better than we used to have.
Right.
This is great. And then everything kind of like slows down. And so realizing that like we have the launch of all these new leagues, but like we really need to keep like full gas on making them more and more professional, right?
Yeah. I think that is accurate. I was trying to think about there was one league in UK, netball, which is like the biggest sport in the world, but not super big here. And they like relaunched their league this year with the idea of like, okay, it was nice, it was a good start, but now we need to be more professional, right? Like, yeah, which I like appreciate and get, right? That like at some point, if you want to play in the big leagues at some point, you have to keep moving forward, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So the WNBA is negotiating the contract,
right? So obviously we were just talking about like some of these sort of semi-pro leagues, which are great steps, but then you also have these like they're legitimately pro leagues, like this is their full-time job. WNBA, PWHL, NWSL. Trying to think of probably the volleyball ones. But Paige Beckers and Caitlin Clark still made $76,000 for being the number 1 draft pick
before sponsorship. But yeah.
before sponsorship.
Yeah, and yes, and Scott brought this up in our first episode, right? About how in the WNBA the players make about 10% of the league revenue, right? But in the NBA it's about 50%, right?
Yeah.
Which, like, on the surface sounds like, ooh, like, why would that be? But my immediate question is like, because I don't think the people who are working behind the scenes in the WNBA are literal, like, trailblazers. Like, they're trying to make shit happen. They're like, so why would this be? Like, why would they have less of a percentage than their male counterparts of the revenue? Like, and the only thing I can think of is that, like, what are the base costs, first of all, of, like, keeping the WNBA running, right? Because the WNBA is making about $2 million a year versus, like, the multi-billions that the
200 million.
200 million. Sorry, what did I say?
2. And I was like, just
2. Sorry. I literally thought I said 200 and it just didn't get from my brain to my mouth. Anyway, and so, yeah, like, there's a difference in the total amount of money.
There is. But what's interesting is if you look backwards, if you go to where the NBA was when it was this many years into its existence, they were making less revenue than the WNBA makes now.
Wow. Okay.
And this is, like, very well documented because the NBA and the AUA, whatever, the competing basketball league at the time, like, merged. So it's very well documented because there were, like, arguments over how much they were going to pay players, and they ended up paying, like, some of the big name players, like Kareem Abdul-Jabbar or whatever, like $300K at the time.
Wow.
Which is a lot, right? So, like, even at the time, they were making less revenue than the WNBA makes the same number of years into its existence, and they were playing players, and that was partially because the players negotiated it as part of that merger, and then it has been negotiated since then. And I would say the other problem the WNBA is facing is this notion and this belief that they do not make money. And so the players should be grateful and thankful for whatever they have. And they motherfucking make money. Like, I don't know how else to explain it. Right? Like, they make more than the NBA made at this point in their career, and the players are paid less. Like, that does not make sense.
That's true.
They also made $200 million. I'm going to get this wrong, but they've doubled their revenue in the last 3 years, and they have not doubled their costs. So, so they're making money.
Yeah.
And a big problem, I think, is just partially this attitude that's like, oh, well, they don't make money. And that's partially a result of they are not a subsidiary because, like, the voting structure is far more complicated than that. But, like, a lot of WNBA teams are partially owned by an NBA team. And NBA teams so basically, even if the WNBA says we want to do X, if NBA owners are like, no, then they won't get to do it. Like, So they have controlled this narrative that, like, it is this unprofitable, sad little stepchild that we're just supporting out of the goodness of our heart. And a number of economists, particularly, like, who have followed this over the years, have written and said that, like, even just saying that, oh, this team isn't profitable is, like, it depends on how you count profitability, right? You could be paying out everybody, like, huge amounts of money, and then that's your profit. You could say that you could own the stadium and contract it back to yourself at, like, a huge cost and be like, oh, we're not making a profit. Like, I think one of the quotes from one of the NBA chief financial officers was, there are 20 different ways I could do the books, and all of them would be legal.
Right.
So I think so when we get to these kind of negotiation times, when, like, there are contract negotiations on the table, you start to hear all these stories you get about, like, oh, well, it's not profitable. Oh, well. And I actually think the WNBA Players Association has done a really interesting job combating that narrative this time around. Like, I don't know if you've seen them a lot on, like, podcasts and doing social and, like, articles in the New York Times, and I don't even remember where I read this, like, big splashy piece last week that was like, if Caitlin Clark's worth $1 billion to WNBA, why isn't she being paid more?
Right.
And this is, like, a mainstream. So I think they've actually really been pushing back on that idea.
On the narrative that they're not profitable.
Yeah.
Yeah. As they should. Yeah.
Which is interesting.
Yeah. So it's really, like, suffering from this legacy of, like, women's sports doesn't, like, this idea that women's sports doesn't make any money. Right.
Oh, yeah.
So what is
And
it?
you still hear it, even like obviously we've talked a few times about the Valkyries here, just because both because it's here and I've been to a few games. I'm going to one next week, but also because it's like the first WNBA team in like 18 years. So there's been a lot of attention paid to like how much money it's making and how much, and they had like a $500 million valuation, whatever, the biggest valuation in the history of women's sports.
Yeah.
And they've only played like 16 games or something. And it's like, I don't know, like that was always there. That was always there for the taking. You could always have made money.
Yeah,
So
totally. So how do we so what's the lever that needs to be pulled to change the players' salaries to be a bigger percentage of the revenue? Like, who makes that decision?
Well, they are currently in negotiations, Sarah.
I think what I'm asking is, who is they?
So there's a players' association. It is a union.
Yeah.
Shop.
Yeah.
And so they have like player reps. I believe there are 2 or 3 of them. And then they are negotiating with like league reps, and they rejected the first deal that was offered. The players rejected it because they're big. They have like their big. Obviously, it gets really in the weeds, but their big things are like increase in salary, increase in amount of revenue, increase in the salary cap overall, and then there also is a big push to like increase the number of roster spots.
Oh,
Because that's been a big problem. Because there's so few spots and there's so few teams that it becomes just kind of insane. Like every week I read about us like dropping some new player. Yeah, it's very weird.
just add new teams. Vancouver.
Just add new teams. It's fine.
Vancouver.
But it's interesting because at the same time, it's like, okay, so WNBA is like kind of the most profitable, longest lasting league, women's league, like out there, right?
Yeah.
So we can learn a lot of lessons from it. But because they weren't making money, or because the women could have made more money, and, you know, they don't want to go to Russia anymore after that went badly, they launched like that 3v3 league themselves. But then Unrivaled also launched a winter league. And these are all efforts for them to just try and like make more money, right? Like they're like, well, we can get some bank here.
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting. It's like the
It's interesting.
It's the same challenges of like any startup. Right? So like I actually had a meeting with the president of a WNBA team this morning, right? And she was like literally the first thing, she knew that I was running a startup when we got on the call, and the first thing she was saying was like, oh, I had no idea like how getting into this, like how much this was going to be like running a new business,
really?
You know, like a startup. Because she had come from like operations roles before that. And and I can see that where it's like, okay, do you like if we call women's basketball broadly, women's pro basketball broadly is the startup, right? So and then you're like, okay, like do we make more money by having a new format, a whole new league, 2 new leagues? Do we just make the core product better? You know, do we spend money on advertising to get a bigger audience? Do we like where do we create partnerships? Like all of the same challenges and questions as any startup or any like growing organization.
I think the extra challenge is that you don't like, if women's basketball in this imaginary scenario is the startup, you don't have control over all aspects of like there are going to be 4 pro volleyball leagues.
Right.
I don't know that that's like the best thing for volleyball.
Fair. Yeah.
But like it's not like any one of them gets to say to the other one like, no, you shouldn't start this.
Totally. Well, and if you think of like, you just use that example of men's basketball having like the competing leagues in the early days, like the American Basketball Association or whatever they were, that, and then eventually them merging. You had the same thing with women's tennis, right? Like you had a couple different like competing leagues that eventually just became one league. So maybe it's just like part of the process. All that.
Yeah, I guess we'll see.
Okay, I've answered our entire question from the last 15 minutes of like all the pro leagues. Like I do think it's part of people feel the vibration when things are growing. They want to be part of it. They want to start things. They have money to invest. You know, we're creating these new leagues, and like it will be like any other. In a capitalist society, like any other ecosystem, like some leagues will survive and some won't. Some will merge, and things will keep growing.
Yeah, I think the hope is just that they don't cannibalize each other. Which I don't know. I mean, I can see the arguments for and against.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't know that I believe the argument that, like, oh, there's only so much room for women's sports fans. I think we've proven that that's, like, not the case.
Yeah, I agree.
But there's probably only so many volleyball fans. Like, X number.
Yeah, it's true. I keep making the same argument that there's so much room for different. Like, I make it in the context of media, you know, that, like, women's sports is growing.
Sure.
Like, we're not just going to have one media platform that presents all women's sports. We're going to have, and we're not just going to have.
We are, and it is this one.
Except this is the one exception, and it's feisty, and here we are. But we're going to need all the, like, think about, like, the massive ecosystem that is, like, men's sports in terms of all the podcasts and all the super niche things and all.
Oh my God, so niche.
Like, all the guys talking about some super niche aspect of one sport, and then there's 12 podcasts about that. Like, so I think there's a lot of room still for media growth, but, like, also for this, like, maybe there can be 3 pro volleyball leagues.
Maybe there can be 3 volleyball. It's yes. And you know, I'm a big believer in, like, women's sports have to evolve now into their niche era, right? Like, we need to be sitting here arguing about, like, why that was the wrong play. And I can't do it for basketball, but I can do it for other sports. Like, we need to be in that next era of, like, it's not all just inspirational. Mm-hmm. But yes, I do think there will be some winners and losers, because I think about it from our sports that I know deeply well. Mm-hmm. And running and triathlon have had a ton of new leagues and leagues is, like, not the right word, but organizations. Mm-hmm. And I keep saying, like, they're not all going to survive, right? And you're seeing it already in track, where, like, there were, like, 3 new big splashy, and we're not talking just women, right? We're talking just, like, broadly. Yeah. 3 new big splashy things, and already one of them owes athletes, like, $13 million. So, right. So you're like, that's not great.
Yeah.
Yeah. Gabby, this is super in the weeds, but this is in the weeds with Kelly and Sarah. Gabby Thomas, the Olympic gold medalist sprinter, posted on the Grand Slam Track League's TikTok of her, "That's so dope, please pay me."
That's awesome.
So you're like, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know, like, from my understanding of some of these leagues, like, if our biggest one has 200 million in revenue, the likelihood that some of these pro leagues are going to get 13 million in debt quickly, it's not.
Oh, you mean if basketball's making 200 million? Yeah, track is not making 100.
Well, women's track.
Yeah, it's not happening. It's not happening.
Yeah. So yet. Not happening yet.
All right. Do we have any other thoughts about all these new leagues? I am sure there are more coming. I literally think, like, every day I get emails about, like, new efforts and new events and new championships, and because it is just, like, such a moment. Mm-hmm. And some of them look awesome, and some of them don't.
Yeah. So I'm saying, I mean, and the ones that don't look awesome to you might look awesome to someone else. Yeah. So maybe our thing is, like, get behind some of these existing leagues, because there's the launch. We know this. I've heard this from people who are working behind the scenes of women's sports. There's the launch, and then there's, like, all the games that come after the launch that are, like, sometimes it goes wah, wah, and there's not as much energy, and you really settle into your super fans, and we need those super fans to keep coming out, and we need that energy of the launch to continue. So
that is true. That is true in men's sports too. Like, whenever these NFL teams move, like, you sell the most merch on the announcement. Like, that's how it works. So have good merch when you make an announcement.
Have good merch. Then have second round of good merch.
Second round of good merch. All right, Sarah, we're gonna close out with our picks of the week. Mm-hmm. Do you have one ready? Are you ready?
I'm ready. You go first, though.
All right. I'm going to pick Amanda Anisimova, who took, second, I guess would be the word, at Wimbledon. Mm-hmm. Okay, I get it. She got her ass kicked in the final. Mm-hmm. But I think it's really interesting. She took a massive break from tennis. She just, like, stepped away at the beginning of 2023, or middle of 2023, and didn't play at all for, like, 8 months. Was just like, my mental health, I'm too stressed. She'd been playing since she was, like, 3 years old. Her dad had died a couple years ago.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Her dad
like,
had passed
that's
away.
Too much.
Yeah. It was like, she has a story for sure.
And it's like, and I think the tennis circuit like gets to you, you know, like if you're just like going from tournament to tournament, like.
And we hear that again and again from players, both male and female.
Yeah, we hear that from players. I was like, what was that movie with the girl and the two guys, the tennis movie? Anyway, that's what I got from that movie. Was that it's brutal. Right. But then when she came back, she was just kind of like having more fun. And then she upset the world number one seed to make her first final at Wimbledon, which I just thought was like a really cool story. And she did seem very nervous in the final, very emotional.
Yeah, I only saw highlights from the final, but everything I read also said she was looking very nervous. And I think it's been since 1911, is that right? When someone's won a Wimbledon final like 6-0, 6-0.
Yeah, it was a 57-minute final.
Sorry, this is tennis. 6-love, 6-love.
6-love. Yes. So, I mean, obviously they should play best of 5, not best of 3, but that's a different argument.
Well, it's a related argument because, like, Laura Robson, who is an ex-British tennis player, made this exact point, was that, like, what 5 sets gives, or 5 games gives the players is a chance to, like, warm up. So you can have your, like, nervous round, and there's still more rounds to go. And basically her point was, like, this kind of, like, this would not have happened if, like, you wouldn't have had a Wimbledon final that was so decisive if you'd had a chance to warm up and another game. So
I don't know enough about tennis, but I will believe her.
Yeah, sure. I'll take it from a
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
I thought it was
all right. What's your pick?
Yeah, that's a good point. Okay, I'm gonna pick Katie Taylor.
Oh, okay.
And the reason is and I know that Kelly's gonna hate this, but like I think what we witnessed in this Madison Square Gardens live Netflix scenario, the all women's card, was like boxing's moment of like women's boxing's moment of like we have made it. And that's why we were like that's why I was like teary watching all of these women who had like, because now like Katie Taylor was standing on the shoulders of giants, right?
Sure.
Like all the women who had gone before and fought for like women to have equal access to boxing at every level, which is like a fight I can very much like relate to, right? So,
I'll also say both those, Puerto Rico and Ireland, are big boxing countries,
right?
Like huge boxing countries, probably for deeply socioeconomic and sociological reasons. But like, so to have like all those flags in the stands and those whole countries like getting behind them was also, I was like, that worked.
It was special. I love the quote that you put in the Feist newsletter, which if anyone's listening and has not subscribed, subscribe to Kelly's newsletter. That link will be in our show notes. It's amazing. Anyway, the quote that you started with in the newsletter was like, where she said, "It was an amazing night for all of us women. I'm crying because it is all because of you guys." Like she's speaking to the fans, the people watching.
Right.
To all of the ladies who fought tonight, you did incredible. We made history. I am proud of each and every one of you. And so like you really knew that there was this historical moment happening. So kudos to Katie for being the anchor of all of that.
The anchor. I am curious. They kept saying like the final fight, and my husband was like, "Are they dying?" So I am curious if it really was the final fight.
I learned. Like boxing is so final because you're always boxing to be a champion. You know what I mean? Like in lots of other sports, you might be doing like you're doing the prelim rounds, and then you're like, you get through to the next round, and then eventually you might be in the quarterfinals, and there's like a long way to go. But like boxing, you're out there, and if you win, you're like world champion. You know. So
I am curious if this was truly the final fight, or what happens from here. So.
Yeah, or like who will be the next stars? Because like the other fights were, some of them were. Yeah, equally amazing. Some of them you saw, because these two, you didn't, like we talked about earlier, you didn't see them get tired. Like Amanda and Katie, you didn't see them get tired. They were very tactical. But when you saw like a little bit more fatigue, people being like, sorry, I kind of got into it. People being like letting down their guard a little, and then being like whacked hard in the head.
Right,
like,
right.
That was very enticing. So I think we're going to see more for women's boxing. This is the beginning.
That's just the beginning. All right, that's all the sports we watched this week, all the sports we should watch the upcoming week, and we will be back next week with Tour de France Femmes preview next week.
Amazing.
we're talking
And so leave us, if you like the podcast, please leave us a review and rate us on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. And yeah, I also want to thank our audience today, Kelly. For those who are listening, we're like, there's a lot of sports that we're now talking about that even I'm new to. I'm like reading things ahead of time online, trying to figure out this new women's sports environment together and create the fandom together. So thanks for your patience with us, as well as we as we make our own little piece of history.